Hi guys, welcome back.
With coffee this time.
Today we're going to talk about time. And first of all, I have to make a disclaimer. If someone has to complain about my accent, you have to think about it like this. It's right between a Russian gangster and Dracula. It's like right in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Igor, bring the subject to my laboratory.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, one of the cool things about this podcast is that it will make us improve our English, which is a good thing.
Because spoiler alert, we're not Americans.
Yeah. Okay, so time. Last time we talked about adulthood, and we're just having some free conversations. We don't do a book or a movie review.
Yeah.
We just think about the topic for a week, and then we just bounce ideas off each other and see what comes out.
Okay.
That's not the first expression, but yeah. So sorry. When I think about time, and when I thought about this subject, I thought about what's the best use of time? What makes my use of time smart and efficient? And I thought about what makes a life worth living. And in order to think about what makes life worth living, I think you have to come down to the micro level and think about what makes a day worth living. Because you can think about life on a macro scale, but that's not very helpful, if you ask me. But if you want to change the way you do things and change the way you live, you have to change what you do today. If you say, okay, I'm going to change my life starting tomorrow, you usually aren't going to do that. If you're not willing to change right now, in my experience, I've had a lot of goals. I'm going to start doing this tomorrow. I'm going to start doing this on Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. Going to the gym, eating better. Studying, yeah. And the stuff that really happened, I'm not as disciplined as I'd like to be, but when I did manage to make some changes, they were done on that spot. I had a half of a burger in my face and I put it down and said, okay, starting now, I'm not gonna eat crap. And I'm not saying I haven't eaten a burger before, since then, but that was usually, immediate action was usually the start of something good. So that's...
Why? Because I had this a lot, thinking that from Monday I'll start eating better. Why doesn't that work? And changing things today works.
It could work. I'm not saying it couldn't, but I don't
most
think
of the
it's
cases,
the best way.
Most of the cases, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Why? I never thought of it. I'm not asking you like. I'm genuinely asking this because something has to happen in your mind that says, okay, I'll enjoy it some more, and Monday I'll stop. And in your brain, you're kind of delaying the things that you don't want to do, and your brain thinks, okay, if I can delay it once, I can delay it twice, or
yeah, that's part of it,
right?
And also in my experience, it gives you permission to do some more bad stuff before Monday.
Yes.
And in my experience, I've done that 100 times in my life.
and you tend to go overboard.
Yeah.
To say, okay, if from Monday I'm not going to eat any crap. Okay, this weekend I'm destroying it. I'm going to the burger joint and I'm going to drink all the soda. Yeah.
And it's really bad if you get to Monday, you've eaten a lot of stuff that's not good for you. You maybe keep going for a few days, and then by the end of the week you're back eating bad stuff. And what did you do? If you really think about it, you ate worse than you would have eaten if you didn't have the goal, probably. If you think of the 7 days, and you didn't really change much.
And you have a yo-yo effect. Strong for a few days, then loose for another few days.
Yeah. Okay, but I don't want to get stuck necessarily eating. So getting back to time and the use of time and what's an efficient use of time, I will talk about my initial question: what makes a day worth living? And my thinking about priorities in life is, I was thinking about starting with family as my number one priority, but I realized that in order to take care of anybody else, you have to take care of yourself. So even though that might sound selfish, I think the first priority should be taking care of yourself. And yeah, we've talked about it with smart eating and healthy habits like working out. That's the first part of taking care of yourself, mostly physical. And then you have to take care of your mind. So I think that a healthy person and a person who is looking out for himself starts every day with something that helps himself, something that helps you improve, something that helps you be better that day. And then you can and should focus on those around you, your family, and then you can enlarge the circle to get to your community, and in a larger sense, that's what would make a day worth living.
I can totally relate to that because I had different times in my life when I would start the day okay, or I would start the day late or in a hurry or without a plan. And I have two things that really come to mind. One is that I started waking up at 6 a.m. every day, and it's my ritual. I have my coffee, I read my Bible, and it's everyone in the house is asleep. Then it's my me time, but two rules. I do the same thing every day,
Okay.
even on Saturday and Sunday. So I still wake up at 6. Exceptions is if I travel a lot the day before or something like that, but that's an exception. But even the weekends, first of all, and the second is I don't touch the phone.
Oh, okay.
Because the healthy habits, if you want to start the day in a positive way, first of all, you have to, from my experience, I have to wake up at the same time. I have to set a goal and wake up at that goal. When my phone rings, because it's the snooze button is if you push the snooze button, it's your first failure of the day. Because if think about it like this, if you want to wake up at 6 or 7, and you wake up at 6 and you push that snooze button and you go back to sleep, what did you do? You failed your first objective for the day.
Yeah.
You start your day with a failure. It's not the best way to start, and in your mind knows that.
It's the worst way to start.
Yeah, and it sets this this in motion. Okay, I wanted to wake up at 6, I didn't. Objective failed. I wanted at 6 to do this, to read, to I don't know, meditate, or what do you want to do in the morning? Okay, you don't have time to that. So there's the second objective failed, and from this thing on, the whole day starts bad.
Yeah.
In a bad way. So yeah, I highly agree with what you said. You have to set your day to start looking for yourself, for the things that help you, and then and stick to them.
Yeah. I read a lot of advice from military guys that really emphasize making your bed, and in itself that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's exactly on point with what you said, meaning that if I wake up when my alarm rings and I make my bed, that's already 2 victories, and victories over laziness and over lack of
I
discipline.
have a problem with that. My wife still sleeps in that bed.
Yeah, in that case, you're good.
I have to wake up and get out of there.
Yeah, of course. But if you can, you should do that, because it sets you up for more victories later on, and that's really important. And so that's generally my point, and I would elaborate more on it later on. But I was wondering what you were thinking about time.
Yeah, I started a bit philosophical because Einstein says that time is relative, but is that really true? It is. When you think of physics, at light speed, time is really different than our time. But it's not very practical. It doesn't affect us that much.
Okay, that idea?
The idea that time is relative.
Okay.
So I have to, when I talk about the relativity of time, I have to talk about and think about the perception of time.
Okay.
To make time and our perception of time 2 different things. Because if I watch a movie now, and a guy from New York watches a movie, and a housewife watches a movie, or a guy who's lazy or a student who doesn't have anything to do in the vacation watches that movie, we all spend real time about 2 hours.
Yeah.
So time is not relative in itself on Earth, but our perception of time is different, because if I have a lot of chores that day, my time is really pressed. But if you have if you have your whole day free, your perception of those 2 hours is okay. It's not that important. It's not. So that's one thing. So when we talk about time, I don't think it's the most important to think about the real time, but more important about our perception of time.
Okay.
And to think about it in percentage. Like, think about it like this. If you're only going to live for 30 years, or you're going to live for 90 years, those 2 hours are, if you only live for 30 years, are 3 times the part of your life than from a person that lives 90 years. So
3 times more important.
more
Yeah.
important or longer
Mm-hmm.
when you think about your lifespan.
Okay.
So, because you hear about this, so this is the main idea. It's a different time perception, not the different time.
Okay.
So, how does this affect me? We hear about, we live in the century of speed. Everything has to be done quickly. We're overcrowded or overworked. But this doesn't affect our time, only our perception of time. Technology was made to make things easier, but it made things easier to accomplish more, not to free our time. Think about it like a car. 200 years ago or 100 years ago, you had to go from here, 50 kilometers to another city. Okay, you had to take 5 hours. Now, you take half an hour. But you don't go only 50 kilometers. You go 500 kilometers because you still have that 5-hour window and you can accomplish more. You don't save time, you just accomplish more. So, what that means for my life, that the most important thing when I think about time, it's assessment. It kind of pairs with your idea of priorities, but I'm thinking more about assessing your life and thinking about what are those things that take the most time, and are those things important, or just give me the impression, the perception that I'm using my time well. And thinking about this morning, okay, I'm waking up at 6, I'm reading, I'm drinking my coffee, and then I say, okay, I'll go to the toilet. You have two options. You take a book, or you don't take anything, and you're done in 5 minutes. Or you take your phone and you scroll Facebook and you take 20 minutes.
In the
on the toilet.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's not pretend people don't take their phones with them on the toilet.
I'm not pretending. I'm saying that it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And if you take a book, you'll be done in 5 or 10 minutes and say, okay, I have to get out. But with a game or a Facebook or YouTube, you can stay for 30 minutes on the toilet without even noticing. People outside the toilet notice. And this is the things that you have to assess. Looking back on yesterday and say, which parts of the day I spent without having the perception of time. And those things have to be assessed just to see if that was something that I was really into and it was something that I wanted to do, or was something that was consuming my time without me even noticing.
Yeah. It's a bit of a slippery slope, I think, and I don't mean the obvious. I'm not against technology in any way.
Oh, no.
I have noticed in my own life too, of course, that I can waste a lot of time while playing on my phone, while watching YouTube. But I also think, so I agree with you, but it's been a long time. So I've been thinking for a long time about this idea. Should people spend less time or more time engaged with technology? And I'm talking about social media and YouTube. And yeah, the general consensus on the internet seems to be it's kind of bad, or it's ruining our life, it's ruining our children and stuff like that. And
it's partially true.
It's like anything, it's about the way you use it. You can use it in a good way, you can use it in a bad way, but I think it's inevitable. I mean, the direction we're going as people is towards convenience, and technology gives us convenience, and people, if I look at my life and if I look at the life of people around me, people are sacrificing a lot of things, including money, to or for the perception of winning time, of getting more
True.
time in their lives. And yeah, I
But
think that's
this-
important.
But the problem that I have with this, with technology, is not that I don't like technology. I have a machine in the kitchen that cooks everything. I have a washing machine. I have a dishwasher. I want all the technology available so I can make my life easier. No, that's not the point. It's the things that give us the impression that we are advancing. Facebook, for example, that's not a real connection. And I'm not just saying that. It's from my own experience. If I spend more than 10 minutes on Facebook, I kind of get depressed because it's it's a roller coaster. You go from look at that guy, look at that girl, and it's only or extremely happy pictures, fun things that you don't do, or even if you do them once a month, but you have 1,000 friends, so every day someone will have a great day, and you say, why don't I have that? Why don't I have that? And you go, okay, I just spent 30 minutes dreaming about other people's lives that are just as bad as mine, but because I watched only the highlights of 30 people, I had the impression that all my friends are very well and I'm bad. So I just wasted time instead of doing it. Now it's autumn, and you go and watch all these pictures of people in nature enjoying the forest and how beautiful it is. And instead of watching this, you can actually take that half an hour and go outside in the park and enjoy that real time. But you don't do that. You say, oh, those guys have such a pretty life, and I don't have.
The resolution is amazing if you go outside in nature.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the first. The first point. But the second, I had 2 points. The second point was that even though our perception of time is different, the key decisions in every day are almost effortless. You make the decision for the entire day or the entire year in I don't know, less than 10 minutes, because it's up to you in the morning to make that decision to get out of bed. It takes 2 seconds to get out, go into the bathroom and wash your face. It takes 2 seconds when you're in traffic and someone cuts you off not to get angry, because if you let yourself get angry, you'll spend the whole day, you'll scream at your kids because they're misbehaving, and you take that on them and you ruin your morning with your kids. Then you go mad at work and you have problems with your coworkers. Those tiny decisions,
you're setting yourself up for more bad decisions.
Exactly. And if you take them for an entire day, it takes less than 10 minutes. I would think less than 2 minutes just to decide the right things.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're thinking 5 seconds here, 10 seconds there.
Yeah, 5 seconds here, 10 seconds here. If you say, okay, today I'm going to eat healthy. We started that topic. If you say, okay, I'm going to decide now and keep this promise, I'll go to and eat a salad. If you just get out of the office and goes towards that salad place, it takes 20 seconds and start going. Okay, you're committed, you're going.
Yeah.
So this decision affects your entire hour for that you take for lunch break.
Or lunch. Okay.
So 10 seconds affects a whole hour.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about assessing your life, assessing those key moments or seconds or minutes that actually define your entire life. Because people don't just get bad at things. People don't just wake up and find out in their 30s that they're alcoholics. They didn't assess and they didn't correct those tiny decisions that took them to that path. They didn't really want to go. If you would ask an alcoholic, okay, 10 years from now, what do you want to go to be when you're 10 years from now? No one will say, I would want to be an alcoholic.
Yeah, nobody plans to have a bad life
Yes.
or a bad marriage or bad relationships, but
They happen because those tiny moments, those 10 seconds that you let yourself make the bad decision. And in the whole spectrum of time, in your whole life, you have key moments each day that if you take care of those, the rest of the day will take care of itself. If you say, okay, I'll go for a run, 2 kilometers, you have to start running. Okay, you say, okay, I'll get dressed. You'll get dressed if you made that decision. And you get dressed and you start running. At first it's not bad. But after 500 meters, you start losing your breath.
yeah.
Another 5 seconds that says, okay, I have to do this. I set myself a goal. And it's about 5 seconds. And if you break that choke point, you go on and you have another 5 seconds, 500 meters. And the whole thing is decided by, I don't know, 30 seconds that really made all the difference.
Yeah, well, you call them tiny decisions, but actually they're the biggest decisions, right?
Yeah, tiny decisions. Time-wise, yes. When you put a timeline on them, when you think about the whole day, 24 hours, you sleep a lot, you work a lot, you play a lot, you waste time a lot, and you make decisions in a small amount of time. But if you really assess them and you think about yesterday and you think, okay, what are those decisions today? It takes, I don't know, 3 minutes in the morning and say, okay, what do I want this day to be? How do I want this day to be? Okay, I want it to be like this. I want to spend time with family. I want to help my wife. I want to be a good worker. 5 objectives. Okay, what do I have to do to be a good husband? And to help my wife. Okay, I'll have to not spend time on the phone while we eat together. I want to
While
ask
she's talking to me, or
I want to ask her about her day. I want to engage with her. Okay, so this decision that I made in the morning when I'm at the table, at the dinner table with my wife, it takes only 5 seconds to put the phone in my pocket, not to leave it on the table, and just stare at each other. Okay, if we don't have anything to say, because it's really tempting to go and do something on Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay, this decision to put your phone takes about 5 seconds, but if you in the morning you said, okay, this is my objective, I want to be a helpful and good husband, will help me make that 5-second decision easier, and if I make that decision, it will make my whole hour with my wife better.
Yeah, I keep thinking about a guy that I really like, and I'm talking about Jocko Willing, and his philosophy or his phrase that he lives by, which is discipline equals freedom. And it's counterintuitive in a way, because if we think about it, what is freedom to us? when we think of freedom, we usually think of a ridiculous picture. We think of ourselves on a beach in Jamaica, drinking cocktails and having everything brought to us. And as Jordan Peterson says, there's something really wrong with that picture. How long do you want to live in there? If you spend 6 months in there, you're a loser and an alcoholic.
I'm going
drinking cocktails every day.
When I go to vacation, after 6 days, I'm done. I want to go home.
Yeah. And so what I understand from discipline equals freedom, when you're disciplined, you are free from yourself in a way. Because in those tiny moments that you talked about, those 5-second decision moments, your impulse is always to do the wrong thing.
Yeah, to be lazy.
Yeah, it's always to do the easy thing.
The easy thing, yes.
That's maybe a better way to say it. But the cure to that is discipline. And I think the recipe for success, let's say, is to make things as automatic as possible. So if I'm thinking about tomorrow, what do I do today in order to make tomorrow a success? And if I go down my list of priorities and I say, okay, first, I know that I have to take care of myself in order to take care of others. What sets me up for the best day tomorrow? As you said, setting some goals for myself is always a good idea, because that way I'm gonna feel like I'm in charge of my day. And I think this might be different for a small amount of people, but I think waking up early is the first thing you have to do. Because if you control the time that you wake up instead of it controlling you, that makes you feel like you have control of your whole day. And I've read a lot of stuff, and I know that's a vague statement nowadays.
It's almost a wrong statement.
Yeah,
you have to give me the argument, not that.
yeah, but it's a tricky thing to find sources nowadays. And one of my favorite quotes is, be careful what you read on the internet, because it's probably misquoted. And
By
that's a
Mahatma
quote from Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. Everything on the internet is a lie. Abraham Lincoln. But it's my belief, based on the research that I've done, that the hour that you wake up every day is really important, and it needs to be constant.
Okay.
And yeah,